Have you ever felt that quiet, nagging emptiness? Something not quite sadness, not exactly unhappiness, but a lingering sense that something is missing? You may have a good job, a loving family, and the comforts of modern life, yet in the still moments of your day, a question arises. Why am I here? What is the purpose of all this? It is a question as old as humanity itself, one that philosophers, scientists, and spiritual seekers have pondered for centuries. Is life simply an accident of nature? A random collision of atoms and events? Or is there something deeper, something more meaningful beneath our daily struggles and fleeting joys? Today, we turn to Buddhism. Not as a system of beliefs requiring blind faith, but as a path of practical wisdom that offers a profound perspective on the very reason we exist. In a world obsessed with external achievements, Buddhism takes a radically different approach. Instead of asking what our ultimate cosmic purpose might be, it asks us to look inward, to examine the nature of our minds, our desires, and our suffering. The Buddha himself did not speculate on divine creation or ultimate destiny. Instead, he focused on a simple yet transformative truth. We suffer because we cling, and we find peace when we let go. But what does this mean in practice? Does it mean abandoning ambition, rejecting happiness, or detaching from life? Not at all. In fact, Buddhism teaches that true happiness is not about escaping life, but about understanding it, seeing it clearly for what it is, rather than what we wish it to be. This journey of understanding begins with recognizing that being born human is an extraordinary opportunity. According to Buddhist thought, human life is uniquely valuable because it provides the ideal balance of pleasure and suffering. Enough comfort to contemplate deeper truths, yet enough hardship to motivate real change. But if human life is precious, why do so many of us still feel lost? The answer lies in our relationship with suffering. We chase happiness in external things, money, relationships, status, only to find that satisfaction never lasts. Buddhism offers a different path. Rather than seeking fulfillment outside, we learn to cultivate a deep, unshakable inner peace. In today's discussion, we will explore this Buddhist perspective on why we live, why we suffer, and how we can transform our existence into something truly meaningful. If you have ever questioned your purpose, this video is for you. Welcome to TT-Buddhism. Let's begin. Chapter 1: The Great Question of Life. Have you ever had that moment of quiet unease, when everything in your life seems fine, yet a question lingers in your mind? What is the purpose of all this? Why am I here? This question does not arise from suffering alone. It can come even in times of success, when you've achieved your goals but still feel a sense of emptiness. No matter how much we acquire, wealth, relationships, achievements, there remains an underlying feeling that something is missing. This is not just a modern dilemma. It is a universal and timeless question. Across cultures and centuries, philosophers, scientists, and spiritual seekers have debated the meaning of human existence. Is life simply an accident of nature, a random collision of molecules that somehow gave rise to consciousness? Or is there a deeper reason behind our existence? While others see life as nothing more than a temporary biological phenomenon, Buddhism, however, takes a different approach. It does not seek the answer in external theories or cosmic speculations, but directs us inward, towards our own minds and experiences. The Buddha himself confronted this question deeply, Born as Prince Siddhartha, he lived in absolute luxury, shielded from suffering and hardship. He had everything a person could desire: wealth, power, comfort. Yet he was not content. He sensed that beyond the palace walls there was something he did not yet understand. Eventually he discovered the inescapable realities of life: aging, sickness, and death. No amount of wealth or pleasure could protect him from these universal truths. More than that, he realized that even those who had everything still felt an inner dissatisfaction, a quiet restlessness, an unfulfilled longing. This is something modern psychology also recognizes. Studies on the hedonic treadmill show that once our basic needs are met, accumulating more wealth or status does not significantly increase happiness. We adapt to new pleasures only to seek more: a bigger house, a better job, a new relationship. Each brings temporary joy, but never lasting fulfillment. The cycle continues, and the underlying emptiness remains. The Buddha saw this clearly and understood that the real problem was not what we were chasing, but why we were chasing it. So, what did he do? He left behind his privileged life and set out in search of truth. For years he pursued extreme asceticism, denying himself food, sleep, and comfort in an attempt to find enlightenment. But self-denial proved just as ineffective as indulgence. Eventually, he discovered what he called the middle way, a path that avoids both extreme indulgence and extreme deprivation. It was only when he let go of extremes and truly observed his mind and suffering that he found the answer he was seeking. His realization was profound yet simple. The purpose of life is not to chase fleeting happiness, nor is it to escape suffering. It is to understand life itself. By understanding suffering, we can move beyond it. By seeing through our illusions, we can awaken to a deeper reality. This is where Buddhism offers its most practical wisdom, not as a theory to believe in, but as a direct path to transform how we live. Before we explore this path, let us first recognize one crucial truth. Being born human is an extraordinary opportunity. Life is not just about existing. It is about what we do with this existence. In the next chapter, we will uncover why Buddhism sees human life as so precious, and why this very moment, right here, right now, is the greatest chance we will ever have. Chapter 2: Human Life, a Precious Opportunity. In the vast expanse of the universe, where countless galaxies, stars, and planets exist, have you ever wondered how rare and extraordinary it is to be born as a human? Out of the billions of life forms on Earth, why are we here, experiencing life as conscious beings, capable of thought, reflection, and self-awareness? Buddhism teaches that human life is not just an accident of biology or a random occurrence in the cosmos. It is a precious and rare opportunity, one that should not be taken for granted. Unlike other beings, humans possess a unique balance of intelligence, emotions, and free will. We are not driven purely by survival instincts like animals, nor are we trapped in states of constant bliss or suffering like certain mythical realms described in Buddhist cosmology. Instead, we exist in a middle ground, one where we experience both joy and pain, success and failure, hope and despair. It is precisely this balance that makes human life so valuable. We have the ability to learn from our experiences, to question our existence, and most importantly, to seek wisdom and understanding. Buddhism often uses a powerful analogy to illustrate the rarity of human life. Imagine a vast ocean, and in that ocean there is a single golden ring floating on the surface. Now, Imagine a blind turtle that surfaces for air only once every 100 years. The chances of that turtle rising to the surface and putting its head through the golden ring are almost impossible. And yet, according to Buddhism, that is how rare and precious it is to be born as a human. This analogy is not meant to instill fear, but rather to awaken a sense of gratitude and urgency, to recognize that life is not to be wasted on trivial pursuits. But what makes human life so important? It is not just about being alive, but about what we do with this life. The Buddha emphasized that being human provides a unique opportunity for growth, self-discovery, and ultimately, liberation from suffering. Unlike other creatures, we can reflect on our actions, change our mindset, and consciously shape our destiny. We are not bound by fate or predetermined paths. We have the power to choose how we live and what we prioritize. Yet, despite this immense potential, many of us still feel lost, unsure of what to do with our lives. We chase after wealth, status, and material success, believing that these things will bring us happiness. But if human life is so valuable, is it truly meant to be spent in endless pursuit of temporary pleasures? Buddhism suggests that our real purpose is not just to survive or accumulate possessions, but to awaken, to understand the nature of our existence, and to cultivate wisdom, compassion, and inner peace. Chapter 3. Why do we suffer? Suffering is a universal experience. No matter who we are, where we live, or what we own, we all go through pain, loss, and disappointment. Some suffering is obvious. Illness, aging, and death are unavoidable parts of life. But suffering is not just about physical pain. It also manifests in more subtle ways. The anxiety of not being enough, the dissatisfaction that lingers even after achieving success, the fear of losing what we love. The question is, why do we suffer? At first glance, suffering seems to come from external circumstances, difficult situations, bad luck, or the actions of others. But Buddhism teaches that suffering is not just about what happens to us. It comes from how we relate to our experiences. In other words, it is not pain itself that causes suffering, but our resistance to it. We constantly try to hold on to pleasure, avoid discomfort, and control the uncontrollable. And when reality does not match our expectations, we suffer. There are 3 primary forms of suffering in life. The first is physical and emotional pain, the suffering of sickness, loss, and hardship. This is the most obvious kind of suffering, but it is only one layer. The second is the suffering of change. Even when we experience happiness, it is temporary. Everything we love, our youth, relationships, success, will eventually change or disappear. We suffer because we cling to things as if they were permanent, when in reality they are not. The third is the suffering that comes from simply existing. A deeper, more subtle form of suffering that arises from the very nature of life itself. We are always searching, always striving, always looking for something more, and even when we find it, the satisfaction does not last. What causes this suffering? The root lies in our desires, attachments, and illusions. We chase after pleasure, believing it will bring lasting happiness. We avoid pain, believing we can escape it. And we cling to the idea of a fixed, separate self, believing that we must protect and fulfill it at all costs. But life is constantly changing, and the more we try to grasp onto something solid, the more we struggle. The Buddha did not simply point out suffering. He taught that it can be understood and transcended. The way we relate to our experiences determines whether we remain trapped in suffering or find freedom from it. In the next chapter, we will explore the deeper purpose of life, not just to survive, but to awaken, to understand suffering, transform it, and discover a happiness that does not depend on external circumstances. Chapter 4: The Simple Answer. Why we live. After exploring suffering and its causes, we now arrive at the fundamental question: why do we live? If suffering is an inevitable part of existence, is life simply about enduring it? Or is there a deeper reason behind our presence in this world? Buddhism offers a profound yet surprisingly simple answer. We live to free ourselves from suffering and to discover true, lasting happiness. This may sound underwhelming at first. In a world filled with grand ideas about destiny and cosmic purpose, the idea that life's purpose is simply to understand and overcome suffering might seem too basic. But this simplicity is deceptive, because to truly live in a way that leads to liberation requires deep wisdom, awareness, and inner transformation. True happiness, according to Buddhism, is not found in external achievements, possessions, or relationships. These things can bring temporary pleasure, but they are all impermanent. No matter how much we acquire, we will always desire more. And even when we have everything we want, the fear of losing it can create suffering. Instead, true happiness comes from freedom, from no longer being controlled by cravings, attachments, and fears. It is about shifting our perspective, seeing things as they truly are, and living with a sense of inner peace that does not depend on external circumstances. So how do we cultivate this kind of happiness? The Buddha taught that there are 4 essential qualities that help us live with purpose and meaning: loving kindness, compassion, joy for others, and equanimity. When we develop these qualities, our minds become lighter, our relationships become more fulfilling, and we begin to experience a deeper, more stable form of happiness, one that does not rise and fall with life's ups and downs. At its core, Buddhism teaches that life is not about fulfilling some predetermined destiny, it is about waking up. The word Buddha itself means one who is awake. To live fully means to wake up from the illusions that keep us trapped in suffering, to see that happiness is not something to be found outside of ourselves, but something that arises when we understand the nature of life and let go of unnecessary attachments. In the next chapter, we will explore how to apply these teachings in everyday life, how to cultivate mindfulness, embrace change, and transform suffering into wisdom, so that we can truly live a complete and meaningful human life. Chapter 5: Living a Complete Human Life. If the purpose of life is to free ourselves from suffering and discover true happiness, then how do we actually do that? How do we live in a way that brings fulfillment, meaning, and inner peace? The answer lies not in waiting for some grand realization, but in how we approach each moment of our daily lives. True transformation happens not through theories or beliefs, but through practice. One of the most powerful ways to live fully is through mindfulness, the simple act of being present. In a world where we are constantly distracted by thoughts of the past and worries about the future, mindfulness teaches us to engage with life as it is, right now. The Buddha emphasized the importance of being fully aware of our actions, thoughts, and emotions in each moment. When we eat, we should know we are eating. When we walk, we should be fully aware of each step. It sounds simple, but in reality, we often live on autopilot, lost in our thoughts rather than truly experiencing life. By practicing mindfulness, we reconnect with the present and begin to see the beauty and depth in ordinary moments. But mindfulness alone is not enough. To live a complete human life, we must also transform our suffering. Life will always bring challenges, pain, loss, uncertainty. But how we respond to these experiences determines whether they lead to more suffering or to wisdom. Instead of avoiding or suppressing painful emotions, we can learn to embrace them as opportunities for growth. Just as a lotus flower grows from the mud, our greatest struggles can lead to our greatest realization. Some Buddhist traditions practice compassion meditation, where instead of resisting suffering, we breathe it in with awareness and transform it into love and understanding. This shift in perspective helps us move beyond self-centered concerns and develop deeper empathy for others. Finally, a meaningful life is one rooted in ethical living and wise choices. The way we treat others, the way we speak, and the intentions behind our actions all shape our experience of life. Kindness, honesty, and patience are not just moral values. They are practical tools that create harmony within ourselves and in our relationships. When we live with integrity, our minds become clearer and we naturally experience greater peace. The Buddha's final message was simple: be a light unto yourself. True wisdom and happiness do not come from blindly following someone else's path, but from directly experiencing truth for ourselves. The answers we seek are not found somewhere far away. They are within us, waiting to be realized. Conclusion: awakening to the true purpose of life. As we reach the end of this journey, we return to the question we started with. Why do we live? The answer, according to Buddhism, is not about fulfilling an external destiny or achieving some ultimate success. It is about waking up to the reality of life, understanding suffering, and discovering a happiness that is not dependent on external conditions. Life is not meant to be a constant struggle for temporary pleasures or an escape from pain. Instead, it is an opportunity, a chance to grow, to learn, and to free ourselves from the endless cycle of dissatisfaction. True fulfillment comes not from acquiring more, but from seeing clearly. It comes from cultivating mindfulness, transforming suffering into wisdom, and living with compassion and integrity. Each moment of life is a chance to practice awareness, kindness, and understanding. This is the true purpose, not given to us by an external force, but realized through our own awakening. As we conclude, I invite you to reflect on your own journey. What are you truly seeking? How can you bring more awareness and compassion into your life? Remember, happiness is not something we find. It is something we cultivate from within. Thank you for being part of this exploration with TT-Buddhism. If this video has given you a new perspective, I encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to continue this journey with us. May you walk the path of wisdom, peace, and true happiness. See you in the next video.